Formula One's CEO, Stefano Domenicali, spoke about the risks of seeing at least one of the two Italian GPs being sacked off in favour of countries like Thailand and South Africa. There have been tons of reports and direct statements from Domenicali regarding this serious matter, and the Imola-born chief expressed his utmost fears that we're going to see either Imola or Monza gone because of the modern expansion in Formula One. But is the sport losing its competitive nature? And more importantly, are these new tracks actually adding value to Formula One? There is no question about it. Formula One is now in serious talks to expand the calendar to Rwanda and Thailand. The president of the sport, Stefano Domenicali, has spoken with high regard of these two countries, but has also revealed the dark reality that comes with it. We are unlikely to see two races in Italy because of this scenario. The chief, who was born in Imola, is now well aware that all of the efforts Imola made back in 2020, hosting two races when the sport struggled to collect enough tracks to fight the pandemic, might go down the drain. The investors and the growing interest from countries like Thailand and Rwanda might be too much to turn a blind eye to. And when talking about the importance of Italy in the world of Formula One, Domenicali said, "Italy has always been and will be an important part of Formula One. It will be increasingly difficult to have two races in the same country because interest in F1 is growing, and it's a situation we will have to deal with in the coming months. It's hard for this situation with Imola and Monza to continue on the calendar for long. I don't think that there is any other race that could replicate the cheering of the Tifosi when a Ferrari driver wins in Monza or in Imola, even though we've seen some massive support in Austria and Zandvoort when Max was dominating the sport. The Italian fans are viewing the sport as a religion, and although with all matters considered they could be seen as privileged to hold two races in a season, it doesn't come without a proper expense on the organisation as well as the country's budget. This is one of the primary reasons why Spain declared that they might not have enough money to organise two events once Madrid joins, which is why Barcelona is now facing the threat to be rotated in the calendar. This was the original plan for Zandvoort, but the Dutch GP's organisers have opted to drop out of the calendar indefinitely, even though the circuit rose to fame thanks to the popularity of Verstappen. Be that as it may, the sport's nature is changing and we are witnessing it with our very own eyes. As of now, having a race like Imola being dropped is just a bit too hard to imagine because of all the moments and racing that it's brought to the sport. But again, there is this growing interest in street circuits and races in countries like Thailand and Rwanda, which are also supported by F1 drivers like Albon and Hamilton. The seven-time world champion has been adamant that there needs to be a race on the African continent because it's the only one that the sport has been neglecting for so long. But given the fact that we're already racing at 24 venues, it can't come without the expense of losing some of the existing ones. With this being said, Domenicali is aware about the value that Imola brings to the table, and given the fact it's his home region, it's with a very tough motion that he expressed his feelings regarding this ongoing situation. Furthermore, he elaborated, "From a human point of view, it will not be easy, but I have to exercise an international role that puts me in front of many requests around the world from emerging countries that can allow F1 to grow. I do not forget that Imola responded at a time of great difficulty, that of COVID. When there was a need to find new places, they responded immediately with the enthusiasm and ability of an entire city." Now, this is the part where the growing of the sport is just too much to be accepted from F1 legends like Alonso and Verstappen. The four-time world champion stated that he might be forced into an early retirement if this trend continues, while the two-time world champion has commented on how the cars are just not fitted for these street circuits at all. Yes, 2026 is going to see the implementation of narrower cars, which would definitely be easier to drive. But when you have skyscrapers and concrete walls all over you while entering a corner with speeds over 150 kilometers an hour, it's really hard to keep the focus on what matters the most. Nevertheless, the interest from Rwanda is massive, and according to Domenicali, it's thanks to President Kagame that we are now close to seeing the first African GP being held after a massive pause from 1993. When talking about this initiative of Rwanda, a country that is making rapid progress in all spheres of its existence, Domenicali said, "I would say, thanks to President Kagame's vision, there is a big push for the country to host the F1 race. But more than a race, it has to be an event where all the ecosystem is ready for what we are bringing in. So we are working very closely to try to accelerate as much as we can what needs to be done. I can guarantee to you that from our side, we are totally helping the promoters so the race can eventually do everything that's asked, and we have really exciting months in front of us, because soon, hopefully, we can say something more than that. Here, Domenicali can count on the support of Lewis Hamilton, an ambassador who is highly supportive of the idea to race in Africa. But again, given the fact that he's part of Ferrari now, and the reward will come at the risk of seeing one of the 2 home races of his team being dropped, he might change his attitude a little bit. It will be interesting to see how Ferrari will react to the statements of Domenicali and the fact that Imola's contract is running out in 2025, whereas Monza is safe at least until 2031, but that doesn't put it under the risk of being rotated in between those years. Another country that has shown a large interest in hosting an F1 race is Thailand. Of course, the growing popularity of Albon, primarily through the show Drive to Survive, and then from his outstanding performances with Williams, has gone on to show that there is a lot of untapped potential in this Asian country. But whether or not this will be enough to go racing on the streets of Bangkok, time will tell. As Domenicali has revealed that there have been a lot of talks with the Prime Minister of the country, Shinawatra, regarding this race taking place in the foreseeable future. Yes, there have been some political instabilities in Thailand in the past period, but that's not something that we should be worried about as of now. And elaborating on the goals of Thailand and their ambitions to join Formula One, Domenicali elaborated, "I was delighted to meet with Shinawatra, the Prime Minister of Thailand, and her team today to discuss their impressive plans to host a race in Bangkok. I am looking forward to continuing our discussions in the months ahead. I think the good thing that we were able to do in the last couple of years is focus on the places that we do believe represent the future of Formula One. We receive a lot of attention from other places in the world. We have other places in Europe, and as you know, there are interests in Africa and there are interests in South America now." Again, the teams might have the opportunity to intervene somehow and make sure that the nature of the sport remains in a very sporting manner, which involves keeping the traditional circuits on the calendar. Even though Alonso's retirement might not hurt the fans that much because he's much closer to the end of his career rather than the beginning, when you have Verstappen threatening to retire earlier because of the ever-growing calendar, then it's a massive concern for the popularity dip that F1 could face. The Dutchman stated that racing isn't everything in his life and that he wants to spend time with his family apart from Formula One, as well as explore other competitions like Le Mans 24. On top of that, Russell has voiced his concerns that the calendar being the way it is right now is putting a lot of pressure on the crew that is working tirelessly in the background behind closed doors. Nobody actually pays enough attention to what is going on with all of the logistics that have to be prepared in order to make a Formula One team eligible to race. And for example, we're going to give you the triple header we have at the end of the season between Brazil, Las Vegas and Abu Dhabi. There are 3 different time zones and 3 different climates that the entire circus of Formula One needs to adapt to in 3 weeks. So with the growing concerns of the environment-friendly campaign not really living up to its potential, maybe the calendar would see a halt in its growth. With all this in mind, what do you think about Formula One potentially dropping Imola or putting it in rotation? And do you think that the potential races in Bangkok and Rwanda are going to live up to their potential? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.